A sealed freight car. Two little girls huddled together in the freezing dark, and pinned to the older one's coat, a note with just one word: Unwanted. Nate Mercer hadn't held a gun in 16 years. He buried his past as the Shadow, the man who hunted down the deadliest outlaws in Montana. He thought that life was over. He thought he was safe. He was wrong. Because the man who murdered his wife 5 years ago? He's back. And now he wants these two orphan girls, not to save them, but to destroy the last thing Nate has left to love. What would you do if the children you swore to protect became the target of a 16-year revenge? How far would you go to keep a promise, even if it meant becoming the monster you swore you'd never be again? This story proves one powerful truth. The strongest families aren't made by blood. They're forged in love, sacrifice, and the choice to never give up on each other. If you believe that love can heal even the deepest wounds, stay until the end. And if this story touches your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. 16 years before that snowy morning, Nate wasn't just a quiet rancher. They called him the Shadow. He was a man who hunted down the worst kind of outlaws. On a frozen mountain ridge, he finally caught up to the last of the Kane gang. The outlaw, Victor Kane, looked Nate in the eye and delivered a curse with his dying breath. He swore his brother Daniel would find Nate one day. He said Daniel would take away everything Nate ever loved. That warning changed Nate's life. He was bleeding out in the snow when a woman with a lantern found him. Her name was Sarah. Sarah nursed him back to health, and Nate decided to leave his old life behind. He put down his guns and built a home with her. For years, he was truly happy. But 5 years ago, a strange fever took Sarah from him. The doctor had a name for it, but it never sat right with Nate. He was left alone with his memories and a quiet, empty house. Now, on the coldest winter morning in 25 years, Nate was just trying to get through another day. He headed down to the depot in Silver Creek to pick up some horse feed. The train arrived with a loud screech, sending clouds of steam into the dark sky. Nate stamped his feet, just trying to stay warm. That's when he heard it. A tiny cough, almost lost in the noise of the train. An old instinct kicked in, and he followed the sound to a sealed freight car. He forced the frozen door open, and his world came to a stop. Inside, two little girls were huddled together. The older one, maybe 8 years old, had her arms wrapped tight around her little sister. And pinned to her coat was that awful note: Unwanted. Something inside Nate, something that had been frozen for 5 years, finally broke. He looked into the older girl's eyes and saw a ghost. They were Sarah's eyes. As he carried the children through the snow, racing to the doctor's house, the girl whispered a name. Her name was Hope, and her mother, Rosemary, had sent them to find their Aunt Sarah. Nate's blood ran cold. Rosemary was Sarah's youngest sister. These were not just any children. They were his family. At the doctor's office, the fight for their lives began. The little one, Faith, was fading fast. As the doctor worked, Nate made a promise to himself. He had lost his Sarah, but he would not lose these girls. The warning from all those years ago came back to him. Let Daniel Kane come, he thought. This time he had something to fight for again. He had a family to protect. Maggie rushed in. Her breath fogging in the cold air, she went straight to work on the two little girls. But Nate just stood there, staring at the cruel note pinned to the older girl's dress. Unwanted. He ripped it off, crushing the paper in his fist. "They're somebody's children," he said, his voice low. Maggie looked up. "Nate, look closer." He did. He saw the girl's chestnut hair, and then a tiny birthmark behind her ear, shaped just like a crescent moon. Sarah's birthmark. "That's not possible," he whispered. Maggie's voice was soft. "My sister Rosemary married a miner. She wrote to Sarah for years, but the letters stopped about 6 months back. She sent them to you, Nate. She had to." Doc Hayes finally looked up. "They're stable for now." Nate didn't hesitate. "I'll stay." They were his Sarah's blood. He wouldn't leave them. Near midnight, the older girl, Hope, woke up. Her first words were a question about her little sister. She's alive, Nate told her gently. Thanks to you. Hope's eyes filled with tears. Mama sent us here, she whispered. She said family would want us, but the lady who put us on the train pinned that note on me. She said nobody would want 2 extra mouths to feed. A hot rage burned in Nate's chest. What's your mama's name? He asked, keeping his voice steady. Rosemary Bennett, she answered. And your daddy died in the mines 3 years ago. Hope's face crumpled. Mama got real sick after. She said I had to be brave and get Faith to our uncle in Montana. She frowned. Uncle Elijah. But she said he might use his real name now. Nathaniel. Nate's breath caught. Nathaniel Mercer. That's me. I was married to your Aunt Sarah. Hope's voice trembled. Can I see her? The question hit Nate harder than a bullet. No, Hope. She passed on 5 years ago. Like Mama, Hope whispered, then stopped. She said it wasn't natural. She told me not to talk about it. Nate leaned in. Hope, you have to tell me. After a long silence, she spoke. Mama said a bad man with cold eyes came to our house. He asked questions about you and Aunt Sarah. Her voice dropped. She called him Mr. Cole. She said he did something to Aunt Sarah and was going to do it to her too. That's why she sent us away. Sarah, murdered. The world fell out from under him. He gathered the brave little girl into his arms as she finally broke down, sobbing about the cold freight car. You did good, Hope, he said, his voice thick. You kept your sister alive. Hope cried herself to sleep right there in his arms. When he laid her down, the little one, Faith, stirred. Her big brown eyes opened and just looked at him. No fear this time. Then she reached out her tiny hand. Nate took it. He held on as she drifted back to sleep, feeling something inside him break open, not to shatter, but to grow. The next morning, Doc Hayes was worried. The little one's in shock, he said. She hasn't spoken a word. She'll need patience. Nate looked at the 2 sisters huddled together. They're coming home with me. Maggie showed up with a basket, ready for a fight. I'm coming with you. Don't you dare argue with me, Nathaniel Mercer. For the first time in a long while, Nate almost smiled. He gently carried Faith to the wagon with Hope clinging to his coat. As they rode, Faith's head lifted just a little. Her eyes landed on his horses. It was the first spark of life he'd seen in her. You like horses? Nate asked softly. She didn't answer, but she didn't look away. Folks in town were already talking, but Nate didn't give a damn. Let him whisper. He had 2 little girls to look after now. His ranch, a few miles out, had felt empty since his wife Sarah passed. It was a good, strong house, but a lonely one. Maggie, his sister-in-law, got right to work, making the place feel like a home again. Nate watched the girls, Hope and Faith, huddled on the bed. Hope was telling stories to her silent sister whose eyes never left Nate. He cleared his throat. You're safe here, he told them. This is your home now. Hope looked up, a glimmer of light in her eyes. What should we call you? Nate thought for a moment. How about Uncle Nate? A real smile spread across her face. Uncle Nate, she said, then turned to her sister. We got an uncle now, Faith. The little girl just looked at him, then gave the tiniest wave. It was more than enough. Later that night, Maggie found him looking out at the snow. Faith spoke, she said softly. She told Hope they were safe. Nate took a long sip of coffee. It wasn't sickness, Maggie. Someone did this. He told her what Hope had said about a man named Cole watching her mother, Rosemary. Rosemary thought he's the one who got to Sarah, too. Made it look like typhoid. Maggie shook her head. The doctor saw what he was told to see, Nate cut in. Sarah was a fighter. She wouldn't have just faded away like that unless something was wrong. Real wrong. You think someone poisoned my sister? Maggie's voice was barely a whisper. I think someone wanted me broken, and they started with her. Nate's mind went back 16 years to the last words of a dying outlaw. Daniel Kane, Nate said, the name tasting like ash. Victor Kane's younger brother. He's been waiting all this time. Maggie grabbed his arm, her eyes pleading. You can't go back to being the shadow, Nate. Those girls need a father, not a ghost. Find proof. Do it the right way. He looked toward the girls' room, their peaceful sleep a fragile thing. All right, he finally agreed. We do it by the book. But if he comes for them, he'll have more than just one ghost to deal with. A small cry from the bedroom sent them running. Hope was sitting straight up, shaking. The man with the cold eyes, she whispered. He was in my dream. He said he'd find us. Nate knelt by the bed, his voice low and steady. No one is going to hurt you. Not while I'm here. I promise. Faith, who hadn't said a word to him, lifted her head. Her little eyes locked with his. Then a single word, quiet as a prayer. Papa, Hope gasped. Faith reached out a tiny hand and touched his rough cheek. Papa, she said again, a little stronger this time. Nate felt his heart clench. He'd never be a father, he'd thought. But this broken little girl was looking at him like he was the whole world. Yeah, he choked out. Yeah, little one, I'm right here. She wrapped her arms around his neck, and for the first time in years, Nate felt whole. 3 days went by. Hope got her spark back, but Faith just watched. She'd stopped screaming when Nate came close, but she was still as quiet as a field mouse. Then on the 4th morning, he found her standing in the kitchen doorway before sunrise, her bare feet on the cold floorboards. What are you doing up, little one? He asked gently. She just stared. He knelt down. Can I pick you up? Get you warm? After a long moment, she lifted her arms. He picked her up, and she melted against his chest, her little fingers clutching his shirt. Papa, she whispered. He carried her back to bed, but she wouldn't let go. Stay, she pleaded. Nate sat on the edge of the bed with Faith in his arms, while Hope snuggled up close to his side. Tell us about Aunt Sarah, Hope asked. Nate's throat went tight. He hadn't said her name out loud in years. She was the bravest woman I ever met, he began, his voice rough. Found me bleeding out in the snow and saved my life. Most folks would have left me for the wolves. Was she pretty? Hope asked. Prettiest woman in all of Montana, Nate said, a sad smile on his face. Had hair the color of fall leaves and eyes like a winter sky. Just like yours. Hope beamed. Mama always said I had her eyes. That night he held Faith as she slept. Her little hand patted his chest. In a tiny whisper she said, She's in heaven now, with Mama. Nate looked down, stunned. You think so? Faith nodded. Mama said when people we love leave, they become stars to watch over us. Hope made a small sound. Faith, you're talking. Faith's eyes went wide, but Nate spoke quickly. It's all right. You talk when you're ready. She relaxed against him and whispered, It feels safe here. Nate held them close. That's because it is. And I promise, it's going to stay that way. The sun rose on a broken man and 2 broken children, who were finally starting to heal together. A little while later, Maggie appeared in the doorway. A soft look crossed her face. Well now, she said softly. Looks like you 3 have worked things out. Hope slid off the bed. Aunt Maggie, Faith spoke to Uncle Nate. Really spoke. Maggie's eyes shone. Did she now? Nate held Faith close as she hid her face in his chest. I have to ride into town today, he announced. Check on a few things. Maggie's gaze sharpened. What kind of things? The kind that need checking on, he said, handing Faith to her. The little girl whimpered, reaching for him. Papa, come back. I'll come back. I promise. Hope watched him. You promise a lot. I know, he said, touching her cheek. And I keep every single one. These two girls, tossed aside by the world, were his now, and nobody was ever going to take them away. The ride to Silver Creek was cold. Sheriff Thomas Brennan had his feet on his desk when Nate walked in. "Well, well, Nathaniel Mercer," Brennan said, his feet hitting the floor. "Been a while." "I need information, Tom." "About those little girls, I reckon," Brennan said, nodding. "The whole town's talking. I don't care what they're saying. I need to know who put 'em on that train." Brennan studied him, then pulled out a bottle. "You remember Victor Kane?" "I remember," Nate said flatly. "You put him in the ground. Ended his gang's rampage for good." "Victor had a younger brother," Brennan said slowly. "Daniel. Just a boy back then. He vanished after you dealt with Victor." Nate felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. "About 8 months ago, a man calling himself Edmund Cole showed up. County land registrar." "You're saying Cole is Daniel Kane?" "I'm saying it's mighty suspicious." Brennan's eyes turned hard as flint. "This Cole character is using an old law, Section 412, to seize land from folks without family, widows, orphans, anyone vulnerable. He explained that if you can't prove blood relation, the county can declare your land abandoned and sell it cheap. Every property Cole has seized," Brennan leaned forward, "has been sold to the Montana Pacific Railroad for a fortune." Nate's mind raced. "It's a scheme." "There's more," Brennan added. "The telegraph operator told me Cole sends messages nearly every day to someone in Cheyenne. The initials are always the same, VK. "Victor Kane," Nate breathed. "Can't be." Nate's voice turned to steel. "Daniel Kane has been planning his revenge for 16 years. He poisoned my Sarah to hurt me, then killed Rosemary to make sure those girls were left with nothing. And now they're with you," Brennan finished, "which means you're vulnerable. Under Section 412, a widower without children can lose everything. Then I'll get legal guardianship." "Not so simple," Brennan warned. "The county judge is in Cole's pocket. He'll block you at every turn. You need proof of kinship, papers you don't have." "Then what do I do?" Nate asked, his hope sinking. Brennan was quiet for a long moment. "There's an old territorial law," he finally said. "It's called the branding ceremony." He explained that if a child takes part in the family's trade, in public, with witnesses, the law recognizes them as family. No papers, no judge needed. "Your brand, the EC Star, is registered," Brennan said. "If those girls mark your horses with that brand in front of witnesses, nobody can say they aren't your kin." "They're just children," Nate protested. "Hope is 8, faith is 4. "Old enough to hold an iron, old enough to make their mark," Brennan insisted. "It's legal, Nate, and it's the only way around Cole's rigged game." "How long do I have?" "Cole's been away on railroad business. He'll be back. You've got maybe a month, 2 at the most." "Then I'd better get to it," Nate said, standing. Brennan stopped him. "Nate, about Sarah's death. The way she wasted away. It was too slow for typhoid. It was like something was eating her from the inside out. Poison. I should have looked deeper. I'm sorry." "You didn't know," Nate said. "But now you do. Whatever you're planning," Brennan's eyes hardened, "I want in." Nate rode home as the sun set. He found Hope in the barn, standing on a hay bale, trying to pet his favorite mare. "Careful now," he said gently. She jumped. "Uncle Nate, I just wanted to see the horses. Mama said you had beautiful ones." Her face fell. "I should have asked." "You don't ever need to ask," he said softly. "Everything here is yours now. The horses, this land, all of it." "But we just got here," she whispered. "Doesn't matter. You're family." She was quiet, then said, "The lady at the station said nobody would want us." Nate knelt down to her level, taking her small hands in his. "Hope, Look at me. That lady was dead wrong. You and your sister are the best thing that's happened to me in 5 long years. You two showed up like a gift I didn't even know I needed. Your mother always said you two were a blessing, and she was right. Hope felt her eyes well up. The train was so cold, and I was so scared. Faith just kept crying. I was afraid we were going to die, mostly for her, because she is just a little girl. You took care of her, Nate said, squeezing her hands. You kept her safe. That is what big sisters do. And I will protect both of you now. That is what fathers do. Her breath hitched. Fathers? Nate knew he meant it. If you will have me. Hope threw herself into his arms. Papa, she whispered. Can I call you Papa? Just like Faith does? Nate's own eyes started to burn. Yes, you can call me Papa. Back at the house, Faith ran from the porch, her little feet crunching snow. Papa, you came back. She grabbed both their hands, linking them. We are a family chain now, she said, so we can never get lost from each other. In the days that followed, life returned to the ranch. Nate taught Hope how to care for the horses, and she learned faster than anyone he had ever seen. Faith was still quiet, but she would sit in the hay for hours, whispering to the barn cats. The house, which had felt like a tomb for 5 years, filled with the smell of baking bread as Maggie helped the girls. One evening, Maggie told him, You are doing what a father does, Nate. Those girls look at you with pure love. You love them and they love you. That is the only thing that matters. Nate looked toward the fire where the girls were playing. But there is a man coming for them, Maggie. A man who hurt their mother. The man who took Sarah from me. I can feel him out there waiting. Then we will be ready for him, Maggie said, her eyes fierce. This town has not forgotten what you did for them. The shadow might be gone, but Nathaniel Mercer is not. The trouble came in the afternoon. Nate was in the barn with the girls when he heard the riders. He told the children to stay put and stepped outside. 3 well-dressed men were there. The man in the lead got off his horse. His smile was cold as a winter morning. Mr. Mercer, he said, I am Edmund Cole, the county land registrar. I am here on official business. Word is you have taken in 2 orphan children with no family connection. They are my wife's nieces, Nate stated plainly. They are family. That man, Cole, pulled a piece of paper from his coat. According to territorial law, he said, his voice smooth as snake oil, family requires documentation. Birth records, marriage certificates, proof of blood. Nate looked at the 2 little girls, just 7 and 4. They were near death when he found them. Cole's pleasant tone didn't fool him. Without the right papers, the children go to the county. A cold dread filled Nate's gut. This was more than just rules. And if I refuse? Cole's eyes had a nasty gleam. Then I'll be back with the sheriff. Nate's voice was low and steady. I know who you are. You take land from widows. You showed up here 8 months ago with no past. And my wife's sister was killed by someone who wanted her little girls left all alone. For a split second, Cole's smile faltered. Careful, Mr. Mercer. That kind of talk is dangerous. You have 60 days to find those papers, Cole said, swinging onto his horse. If you can't, he shrugged, the county takes the girls and we review your property. Nate's blood ran cold. A man with no heirs is vulnerable under the law. Cole's smile was a white slash in the sun. 60 days. As they rode off, Nate fought the urge to end it right there. He walked back to the barn where Hope stood, clutching her little sister, Faith. Who was that man? She whispered. Nobody, Nate said. He smiled like he had a bad secret, she said, her eyes serious. Mama said a man's smile tells you everything. His never reached his eyes. Smart girl. He wants to take us, doesn't he? Nate knelt down. Listen to me. Nobody is taking you anywhere. You're my daughters now, and I protect my family. But how? Hope asked. There's an old way, Nate explained, a branding ceremony. If you mark our horses with the family brand in front of witnesses, the law has to recognize you as Mercers. No papers needed. Hope's eyes widened. You want us to brand the horses? I want you to claim your place in this family for all to see. Faith, her face streaked with tears, lifted her head. I can do it, Papa. I'm brave. I know you are, Nate said softly. But we need witnesses, Hope said. Will folks stand with us? Some will, Nate promised. The ones who remember what I did when the Kane gang rode through here. Hope grew quiet. That man, Cole, he's the one who hurt Mama, isn't he? Nate couldn't lie to them. I think so. He wants to hurt me, and he knows the best way is through you. Hope's little jaw hardened. Then we have to be strong so he can't win. That night, Nate sat on the porch, his old revolvers in his lap. He hadn't touched them in 16 years, a promise he'd made to his late wife, Sarah. The door opened and Maggie, Sarah's sister, stepped out. She hated those guns, Maggie said softly, sitting beside him. I'm not that man anymore, Nate said. No, you're a father now, a protector, not a killer. Cole will push this, Nate said. He'll use every trick, legal or not. And you'll fight him with the law and the truth, Maggie said, touching his arm. And if that fails, she paused, I'll be right here beside you when you pick up those guns. Those girls, Maggie's voice trembled, are all that's left of us Whitmore sisters, the last of our bloodline. I will keep them safe, Nate vowed. I know, Maggie said, standing. Now get some sleep. You need to start training Hope, and you need to find witnesses. The Sullivans will stand with you, and others who remember the Kane gang. They'll stand with you, Nate. After she went inside, he whispered into the darkness, Sarah, I'm going to protect them. I'll give them the home we always wanted for our own. And if that man comes for them, I will do whatever it takes to stop him, even if it means becoming the man I swore I'd never be again. In the stillness that followed, he could have sworn he heard a faint melody on the wind. It was Sarah's lullaby, the one Hope now sang to her sister. I hear you, he whispered. Peace settled over him, just for a moment. Tomorrow, the fight would begin. For the next 3 weeks, Nate trained Hope with the branding iron. He taught her to hold it steady and press it firmly against a wooden post. Like this? She'd ask, her small hands getting stronger each day. Steadier, he'd coach. You're learning fast. She beamed. Mama said I was stubborn like Aunt Sarah. Faith watched from the hay bales, her eyes following every move. She was too small to hold the iron, but she would be there, a silent witness to her family being forged in fire and faith. Cole is moving against you, Maggie warned a few days later. He has filed papers with the territorial judge claiming you are an unfit guardian. He has paid people to lie and say you are unstable. And that judge is in Cole's pocket. He wants this settled before your 60 days are up. We have to move faster. The branding ceremony cannot wait. It is the only way to prove to the whole county that those girls belong here with you. Hope is not ready, Nate argued. She will have to be ready, Maggie insisted. We are all out of time. That night, Nate found Hope in the barn, practicing with a cold branding iron. She was pressing it against a post, her face tight with focus. I did not hear you come in, she said, startled. He walked over. I want to be ready, she told him, her gray eyes serious. Aunt Maggie told me about the bad man who wants to take us away. Hope lifted her chin. I am not worried. I am angry. He does not get to decide our family. We decide. Her grip on the iron tightened. When is the ceremony? Nate looked at this brave little girl. They needed more time, but they had none. 3 days, he said. Sunday morning. A flicker of fear crossed her face, but she set her jaw. I can do it. For us. I am a Mercer now, right? Mercers do not back down. No, Nate said, his heart swelling with pride. Mercers do not back down. Hoofbeats in the dark brought him out of the barn, rifle in hand. 6 armed riders were surrounding his home. "Hope, Faith, Maggie, get inside," he yelled. In the faint light, he saw the lead rider dismount. It was Edmund Cole. "Evening, Mercer," Cole called out, holding a piece of paper. "I have a warrant signed by Judge Harrison. We have concerns about the children." Nate stood his ground. At night? With 6 armed men? Cole's smile was a white slash in the dark. "You have quite a reputation. The Shadow. That is what they called you, correct? My sources say you took care of a lot of bad men." His voice grew hard. "My brother was only 15 years old when you hunted him down. He was just a boy. Your brother chose to ride with killers," Nate said. "He was a child following his family," Cole shot back. "And now, as a county official, I am here to ensure the welfare of 2 orphans. They are not orphans. They are my daughters." Cole just smiled, a cold, hard look in his eyes. "Prove it, Mercer." "Oh, that is right. You cannot. You have no papers, no records, nothing but your word." He then told Nate the branding ceremony planned for the next day was off. A judge, a friend of Cole's, had put a stop to it. Trying to brand the girls would get Nate arrested. Cole sat high on his horse, looking down. "You have 60 days, Mercer. 60 days to find legal proof that those girls are your blood. And I have a feeling you do not have any." As he turned to leave, he paused. "One more thing. The girl, Hope. She has her mother's eyes. Rosemary used to look at me the same way, right before she started coughing up her own blood." Nate's hand tightened on his rifle, his knuckles white. But before he could raise it, a small voice cut through his rage. "Please, Papa, do not." Hope was on the porch, tears streaming down her face, with little Faith clinging to her. Cole just laughed and rode off into the night. Nate lowered the rifle, his whole body shaking with a fury he had not felt in years. He turned to his girls. Hope's voice was steady, despite her tears. "That man, he's the one who hurt Mama, is not he?" Nate could not lie to her. "I believe so, honey." Her little hands clenched into fists. "Then we have to stop him. We have to make him pay." "We will," Nate promised. "But how?" Maggie, their friend, asked desperately. "He has the judge on his side. What can we do?" Nate looked at the fire in Hope's eyes. It was the same fire his sister Sarah had. "He thinks he has won," Nate said, his voice low and dangerous. "But he made a mistake. He showed us his hand. This is about revenge for his brother. And revenge makes a man sloppy." He put a hand on his daughter's shoulder. "He has been planning this for 16 years. Now it is our turn to plan. I am going to find proof. Something that will destroy him for good." 2 days later, Nate rode into Helena, the territorial capital. He left the girls with trusted neighbors, knowing it was a risk. But the answers he needed were buried in the past, hidden in dusty government records. In the basement of the courthouse, an old clerk sat behind a mountain of papers. "I need to see all the land records for Silver Creek involving a man named Edmund Cole," Nate said, placing a small pouch of coins on the desk. The clerk's eyes lit up. "Right this way, sir." It took hours of searching through dry, brittle documents. Nate discovered that Cole had been seizing land for years. But there were mistakes. He found forged signatures and dates that made no sense. And then he found it. A letter written years ago to Edmund Cole from a man named William Hayes. It was a report about him. The letter laid out his entire family history. It detailed his marriage to Sarah and his sister-in-law Rosemary's marriage. It even listed the names and birth years of his 2 girls, Hope and Faith. Nate's hands trembled as he read the final line. "If Mercer dies without heirs, his property reverts to the county. However, if the sister's children establish legal residence, his claim is protected. Recommend eliminating this possibility before it occurs. The words hit him like a punch to the gut. Cole had known about the girls for years. He had planned this all along. He murdered Rosemary to make the girls orphans, to use them as pawns to steal Nate's land. He had murdered Sarah 5 years ago to break Nate's spirit first. It had all been one long, patient, evil game. Nate folded the letter. This was the proof he needed. This would ruin Cole, but he had to get home. He rode for 2 days straight, pushing his horse to its limit. He arrived at his ranch after dark to find it quiet. Too quiet. The house was empty, the furniture overturned, and dishes shattered on the floor. There had been a fight. On the kitchen table was a single sheet of paper. You took my brother. Now I will take what you love. Devil's Ridge, midnight. Come alone and bring the letter. Just then, Sheriff Brennan stepped out of the shadows, rifle in hand. Easy, Nate. It is me. Where are they? Nate demanded, his voice cracking. Cole took them about 3 hours ago, Brennan said grimly. Maggie is hurt, but she will live. She fought hard, but there were too many of them. He has both hope and faith. Nate felt his world collapse. His daughters were in the hands of their mother's killer. He wants you to come alone, Brennan said. He wants to finish what his brother started 16 years ago. Then I will go alone, Nate said. Like hell you will, Brennan shot back. I have 6 good men ready to ride. If he sees anyone else, he will kill them, Nate argued, walking toward an old trunk he had not opened in years. He pulled out his old gun belt, the leather worn and familiar. He strapped it on. All right, Nate said, checking his revolvers. Follow me, but stay out of sight. Give me 30 minutes alone with him. If I am not out by then, you come in shooting. But you get my girls out first, no matter what happens to me. Brennan saw the look in his friend's eye. 30 minutes, he agreed. Nate paused at the door. Tom, if I do not make it back. The letter is in my coat. Make sure a real judge sees it. Nate rode hard toward Devil's Ridge, the place where his past and future were about to collide. The ridge was pitch black when he arrived. Daniel Kane! Nate yelled into the darkness. I am here! I came alone! A lantern flickered on. Cole stood at the edge of a cliff. He held little Faith in one arm, with a knife pressed to her throat. One of his men held Hope nearby, her hands tied. I knew you would come, Cole sneered. Let them go, Daniel. This is between us. It has always been between us, Cole said, his voice filled with 16 years of hate. You killed my brother Victor right on this ridge. He was all I had. You murdered him. He was a killer who earned that bullet, Nate said flatly. He was my family, Cole screamed back. And these girls, they are mine. His cold laugh echoed in the night. I planned this for so long, Shadow. I even killed your wife. I made it look like a sickness. It was slow and painful, and you never even knew. Just then, a rock tumbled down a nearby slope. Cole glanced toward the sound for a split second. It was all Nate needed, all Nate did. He drew his pistol and fired, not at Cole, but at the lantern. The ridge plunged back into total darkness. In the confusion, Brennan and his men charged in. Cole was captured, and Nate ran to his daughters, holding them tight. The long night was finally over. He had faced the ghosts of his past, and won. Looking at his girls, he knew that true family was not just about blood. It was about love and fighting for it, no matter the cost. I killed her sister, too, Cole sneered, his voice dripping with venom. Sweet, simple Rosemary. I poisoned her for 3 months. Nice and slow. Nate's blood turned to ice. Why? Cole's grip on Faith tightened. Because it meant these girls would be all alone. No one to protect them. They should have died in that freight car. But you always find everyone. He pressed a knife to Faith's throat, drawing a thin line of blood. Now you will give me that letter. Then you will sign a confession that you murdered my brother, or I start cutting. "I have waited 16 years for this," Cole whispered, his eyes gleaming with a terrible madness. But Faith was not looking at him. Her brown eyes were locked on Nate's, filled with a trust so complete it stole his breath. "All right," Nate said, slowly raising his empty hands. "You win." He pulled the letter from his coat and tossed it at Cole's feet. Then he unbuckled his gun belt and let it fall to the dirt. "Now kick it away." Nate did. "Good," Cole nodded to his man. "Bring the older one here, just like her mother, that one. All fire." "Now the confession." Cole's voice was hard as stone. "Sign it, and maybe I will let the little one live. She is young enough to forget." A furious sound came from behind Hope's gag. "Enough," Nate said, his voice cutting through the tension. "Give me the paper." He took the document, a web of lies designed to destroy him completely. He looked from Hope to Faith, his entire world held hostage. Then he looked at Cole and smiled. "You made a mistake. You should have searched me more carefully." In a blur, a small, sharp blade flew from his sleeve, striking Cole's knife hand. Cole screamed, dropping his weapon as Faith scrambled away. "Now!" Nate roared, and gunfire exploded from the darkness. As Cole's men fell, Nate tackled him, sending them both crashing to the ground. 16 years of rage erupted as they fought toward the edge of the cliff. "This is where it ends," Cole charged. Nate sidestepped and grabbed him by the collar, holding him over the long drop. "Let me go!" Cole shrieked. "You will face justice," Nate grunted, hauling him back from the edge just as a wounded man aimed a pistol at his back. A shot rang out, but it was not Nate who fell. Sheriff Brennan stood in the shadows, his rifle smoking. The gunman collapsed. Brennan moved to Cole and slapped handcuffs on his wrists. "It was not supposed to end this way," Cole whispered, all the fight gone from him. "Why will you not kill me?" Nate crouched down. "Because my girls are watching," he said, standing up. Hope and Faith ran into his arms, holding him tight. "You came for us," Hope sobbed. "Always," Nate promised, holding them, as the first light of dawn broke over the ridge. They were safe. It was finally over. The ride home was quiet. Faith slept against Nate's chest while Hope held his coat like she might never let go. "Maggie is going to be all right," Brennan said softly. "Doc sent word. She put up quite a fight." He looked over at Nate. Letting him live, that took something. Nate looked down at his children. "They were watching, Brennan. I will not be the man who teaches them that hate wins." When they reached Doc Hayes's house, Maggie was sitting up in bed. "Oh, thank God," she cried, bursting into tears as the girls ran into her arms, finally home. Faith woke up in Nate's arms, and her little eyes, full of tears, found Maggie. She had never called her Gamma Maggie before, but the words tumbled out. Maggie's heart ached. "I am okay, little one. Just a bump." Nate gently placed Faith on the bed, and the little girl curled right up to Maggie for comfort. "We are all safe now," Maggie promised. "Papa saved us," Faith said with certainty. "He surely did." The law arrived from Helena not long after. They took Cole and his men, and the truth Nate uncovered brought down a whole network of corrupt officials. But through it all, Nate only had eyes for his daughters. Hope's bad dreams came every night, and he would sit with her until she could sleep again, singing an old lullaby. "Will the bad man come back, Papa?" she asked one night. "He's gone for good," he told her. "I will always be here to protect you, and when I am gone, you will be strong enough to protect yourself. Hope, you are the bravest girl I have ever known. Your mama saw it, and I see it now." A smile finally returned to her face. "I love you, Papa. I love you more, sweetheart." Faith healed in her own way. She stuck to Nate like glue, her little hand always in his. She needed to follow him everywhere he went. It both broke his heart and made it whole. "You are a natural father," Maggie told him one evening. "It is not the family Sarah and I planned," he said. "No," she replied with a smile. "It is better, because y'all chose each other." The trial started in March. A fair judge named William Crawford came to Silver Creek to see justice done. Nate took the stand and told them everything. He spoke of his past, of finding the girls, and of the 16 years of peace in between. Judge Crawford looked him square in the eye. You had Daniel Kane at your mercy. Why did you not kill him? Nate looked at his girls sitting in the front row. Because I did not want them to see their father choose revenge over justice. I want their names to be Hope and Faith Mercer if the law allows. First, the judge said, tell me of the confession. Nate told the court everything Cole had admitted. Then, the judge turned to the man in chains. Daniel Kane, do you have anything to say? A strange peace had settled in Cole's eyes. I am guilty, he said plainly. Guilty of it all. The courtroom was stunned. I spent 16 years planning to destroy that man. Have you ever seen someone so eaten up by hate that it destroys them from the inside out? That was Cole Kane. In that Montana courtroom, he finally confessed that a bitter feud cost him his brother and made him take everything from a good man named Nate. Cole learned the hard way that revenge doesn't heal you. It just digs a deeper hole. His story is a powerful reminder that we have to choose forgiveness or risk losing ourselves to the darkness. In the end, his quest for vengeance led him straight to the gallows. The judge sentenced him to hang, and Cole accepted it. As he was led away, his final words to Nate were about the two little girls he'd orphaned, Hope and Faith. Take care of them, he said. They deserve better. After the sentencing, Judge Crawford called Nate and the girls forward to settle one last piece of business. The judge looked down at the two little girls clinging to Nate. There is the matter of Hope and Faith Bennett, he announced. He explained that while the girls were Nate's nieces by marriage, the law required more to make them family. A fraudulent order from a crooked judge had stopped their official branding ceremony, a ceremony that would have sealed their place in the Mercer family. Well, Judge Crawford declared, I am ordering that ceremony to take place tomorrow, right here in Silver Creek, with the whole town as a witness. Hope's eyes lit up. For real? She asked Nate. He scooped up little Faith. For real, he promised. Both of you. The next day at noon, it seemed like the entire town gathered to watch. Hope, with a look of pure determination, took the hot branding iron. The Mercer family mark, the EC star, glowed bright orange. Nate gave her a quiet reminder. Steady hands. Count to 3. The young colt stood waiting. Hope pressed the iron firmly to its flank and called out in a clear voice, EC star, this is my family's mark. When she lifted it, the brand was perfect. The crowd roared with approval. Judge Crawford stepped up with a document. Let the record show, he announced, signing the paper with a flourish, that I recognize Hope Bennett as Hope Mercer, legal daughter and heir of Nathaniel Mercer. Hope threw her arms around Nate. I'm really yours now, she cried. Faith then asked if she could be a Mercer too. The judge smiled, saying she was too little for the iron, but not too little for the ceremony. Nate carried her over and helped her small hand touch the fresh brand on the colt. This is your family's mark, Faith, he said gently. The little girl looked at all the smiling faces and announced for everyone to hear, I'm Faith Mercer. I got a papa and a sister and a family. With another signature, Faith was officially a Mercer. Nate pulled both his daughters into a tight hug, his voice thick with emotion. You're mine now. Nobody can ever take you away. That afternoon, they rode out to the small cemetery overlooking the ranch. For 5 long years, his wife Sarah's grave had stood there all alone. Now, a new headstone for her sister Rosemary stood beside it. The girl's mother was finally home. Hope placed wildflowers on both graves. I'm Hope Mercer now, she whispered to the stones. Papa adopted us. She missed her mama every day, but she knew she was not alone anymore. Nate put his hand on Sarah's headstone. "I found them, Sarah," he said quietly. "Rosemary's daughters. They're my daughters now." He told her how Hope had her courage, and how Faith had a heart big enough to love the whole world. He promised to give them the home they had always dreamed of. Faith looked up at him. "Is Aunt Sarah happy now?" Nate lifted her into his arms. "I think she's very happy, little one, because we all found each other." They walked back as a family, bound by love. In the weeks that followed, laughter finally returned to Nate's quiet ranch house. The girls' nightmares faded away, replaced by the happy chaos of a real home. Maggie, a close friend, moved into the guest cabin to help, though Nate figured she was just as lonely as he had been. One morning, she looked around the dusty living room. "You need to make this a home, not a bachelor's den," she said. "You have daughters now." Just then, Hope appeared in the doorway and asked, "What's a hunting lodge?" Maggie replied with a smile, "It is a place where men live when they don't have wives to civilize them," said loyally. "That smells like Papa." Maggie just snorted. "That is exactly my point." But the house changed, slowly and surely. New curtains went up. Fresh flowers brightened the kitchen. The porch rocker, empty for 5 long years, now held Maggie in the evenings as she mended clothes. Folks who remembered what the shadow had done came to visit, wanting to meet the girls he had saved. One evening, Hope told him, "Everyone in town says you are a hero. I am not a hero. I am just a rancher. She says you saved us too, and that makes you an even bigger hero." Nate pulled her close. "I am just a man who got lucky. I found 2 little girls who needed me as much as I needed them." On the anniversary of Sarah's death, he found them on the porch, wrapped in blankets. "We knew you would be sad today," Hope said. "We wanted to be with you." Nate sat down and Faith climbed right into his lap. Hope leaned against his shoulder. "Tell us about Aunt Sarah," she said. So he did. He told them about building this house with his own 2 hands, all because she wanted a real home. He spoke of her laugh, her courage, and the way she held on until the very end, a long, slow fade that he now knew was pure evil. "You still love her," Hope said softly. "I will always love her." "Does that mean you cannot love us?" Nate's heart squeezed tight. "No, sweetheart. Love is not a pie. It does not run out when you share it. It just grows." "Mama said that too," Hope whispered. "She said Aunt Sarah taught her everything about love." Faith looked up at Nate with her serious brown eyes. "Aunt Sarah sent us to you from heaven so you would not be sad anymore." Spring came early that year, and with it, new life. Hope was there for every foal's birth, learning how to guide life into the world. Faith discovered the barn cats, giving them grand names like Princess Whiskers and Sir Meows-a-Lot. "They can catch mice and still be royalty," she declared. For Hope's 9th birthday, Nate gave her a young mare with a chestnut coat and kind eyes. "She is beautiful," Hope breathed. "What is her name?" "That is for you to decide." Hope studied the horse for a long moment. "Sarah," she said. "I'm going to call her Sarah." Nate's throat tightened. "That is a good name." Aunt Sarah would have liked her. She loved horses more than just about anything. Hope stroked the mare's muzzle. "Then she will like knowing a horse is named after her." Faith tugged at Nate's coat. "Faith gets a horse too when Faith is big. When you are big, I promise." "Another promise," Faith said, pleased. "Papa is full of promises, and I keep every single one." That night, Nate tucked both girls into bed. "Papa?" Hope's voice was sleepy. "Thank you for finding us. I should be thanking you too. You saved me." Nate smoothed her hair back. "I was just an empty man before you came along. Then 2 little girls showed up and everything changed. Because you loved us. Because you let me love you." Faith reached out, her small hand finding Nate's. "Family chain," she mumbled. "Never break," Nate agreed. The years passed, slow and then all at once. Hope grew tall and strong, learning to ride like she was born to it. Faith blossomed into a girl made of sunshine and laughter, a dreamer through and through. Where hope was serious, Faith was playful. "Papa, watch this," Faith called one morning, balancing on the corral fence. "Faith Mercer, get down from there." She promptly fell, and Nate caught her just in time. "See," Faith said, not scared at all. "Papa caught me. I knew he would." Maggie watched from the porch, shaking her head. "Those girls are going to turn your hair white, Nathaniel Mercer." "Too late for that," he called back with a grin. The silver at his temples had spread, a testament to time and laughter. The shadow was nothing more than a ghost story now. At breakfast, Faith announced that Princess Whiskers had 6 kittens. "6 more cats," Nate sighed. "They are not cats, Papa. They are nobles." "My mistake." Hope rolled her eyes but smiled. "You encourage her. You built her cats a castle last month. It had a flag. Cats need flags." Maggie laughed, the sound filling the kitchen. "We are Mercers," Faith said proudly. "Mercers are supposed to be impossible." "Papa said so." "When did I say that?" "Last week," Hope said. "You said Mercers are stubborn as mules and twice as impossible." "Well," Nate admitted, "I was not wrong." The execution of Daniel Kane happened on a Tuesday. Nate did not go. Some endings do not need to be witnessed. That night he walked out to Sarah's grave with Rosemary's headstone beside it in the moonlight. "It is done," he said quietly. "The man who killed you both, he is gone." The wind stirred the lavender Maggie had planted. "I do not know if that brings you peace. But the girls are safe. That is what matters. That is all you ever wanted." He stood there for a long time, remembering the 2 sisters who had loved so fiercely. "I will take care of them," he promised into the quiet dark. "Until my last breath, they will be safe. To always look after one another, that is what you taught them." The wind blew through the lavender. "Thank you," he whispered, "for sending them to me." He walked back to the house where his new life was waiting. Hope turned 12 that fall, and the Sullivan boys sure did notice. "Jacob Sullivan follows me around like a lost puppy," she complained to her sister. Faith, now 9, just giggled. "They grow up too fast," Maggie said to Nate as they watched from the porch. "Seems like just yesterday we found them." "It sure does," he agreed. "But they will always be your daughters." That evening, Nate found Hope brushing her horse in the barn. "Want to talk about it?" "There is nothing to talk about," she insisted. "All right," he said, leaning on the stall. "I will just stay here with you for a spell." Hope finally sighed. "Does it ever stop?" Nate paused. "Does what stop?" "The way boys look at you," she said, her jaw tight. "That Jacob Sullivan looks at me like I'm some prize to be won. I am not a prize." "No, you are not," Nate said, moving closer. "You are a person. Some boys are just too young and foolish to see that." He looked her in the eyes. "But here's the thing, Hope. You decide who is worthy of you, not them." "What if I don't want to choose anyone?" she asked. "Then you don't have to," he said gently. "Your life is your own." She looked at him. "Did you choose Aunt Sarah, or did she choose you?" Nate smiled. "Oh, she chose me. I was too scared to think I deserved someone like her." "But you did." "She thought so, and that was enough. Someday someone will see you as a partner, not a prize, and you will know it when it happens." Hope hugged him tight. "I love you, Papa." "I love you too, sweetheart." Faith was 13 the year Maggie got sick. It started as a cough that never left, and a weariness that sleep could not fix. "Don't you fuss over me," Maggie would say, even as her breathing grew shallow. "I have lived a good life." "You are not dying," Hope insisted. Maggie's voice was soft. "Doc Hayes is a kind man, but I know my own body." Faith crawled into bed beside her. "You can't go, Gamma Maggie. You promised you'd see me get married." I'll be watching from the best seat in the house, little one, Maggie whispered, stroking her hair. Nate watched his girls say their goodbyes, his own heart breaking. Maggie's voice was a bare whisper. Nate, come here. He took her hand, her grip frail. Thank you, she said, for letting me be a part of this family. You were always family, Maggie. After Sarah and Rosemary were gone, I was so alone. But you brought these girls home and gave me a reason to keep going. Promise me you will take care of them, Maggie pleaded. I promise. And take care of yourself. Do not become that ghost you were when Sarah died. Those girls need a living father. Her eyes held his. I promise, he said. A peaceful smile finally touched her face. Sarah is waiting for me. Her eyes closed. Tell the girls I love them. I'll be watching from the stars. Her breath slowed, then stopped. They buried her on the hill beside Sarah and Rosemary. The ranch grew quiet, the laughter replaced by a heavy grief. But they had each other. 6 months later, Faith stood up from the breakfast table. Gamma Maggie would hate us moping around, she declared. She'd say we were wasting good daylight. Let's do something that would make her proud. They decided to clean Maggie's cabin. In a trunk under her bed, they found hundreds of letters from Sarah and Rosemary. She kept every letter anyone ever sent her, Hope whispered. This one is from Aunt Sarah, Faith said, holding up a faded page. It's about Papa. She read it aloud. Dear Maggie, I know you think I am foolish for loving a man with such a dark past. But you did not see his eyes when he woke in Father's cabin. He was broken and desperate. I want to give him a home. I want to show him that his past does not have to define his future. He is the one, Maggie. I have never been more certain of anything. Both girls were crying. They brought the letters to Nate that evening. He read each one, tears streaming down his face as he remembered the woman he had loved. Thank you, he said when he was done. Thank you for finding these. Hope smiled through her tears. Gamma Maggie saved them for you, for when you were ready to remember. Hope was 22 when she met James Sullivan, Jacob's younger brother. He is different, Papa, she explained. He does not look at me like a prize. He looks at me like he wants to know everything about me. And do you feel the same? Nate asked. She gave him a smile that was all Sarah. Yes, she said. I really do. At the wedding, Nate walked his daughter down the aisle, his heart full. How do I look? She whispered. He stopped and turned to her, this miracle of a child who had become the center of his world. You look like a woman who knows exactly who she is, he said. Strong, brave, and loved beyond measure. Her eyes filled with tears. I learned from the best. He kissed her forehead. All three of your mothers are watching right now. Sarah, Rosemary, and Maggie. I can feel them. He then placed Hope's hand in James's, his family whole once more. You take good care of her, Nate told the young man. She's the finest gift I ever got. Thomas Bennett looked him square in the eye and promised he would. The ranch sure felt empty after Faith left, a quiet that hadn't been there since the girls first arrived. But it did not stay quiet for long. Hope and her husband James built a cabin nearby, and soon enough the sound of grandchildren filled the air. There were 5 little voices calling him Grandpa, 5 sets of small hands learning the ways of a ranch. Watching Nate teach his oldest grandson, Hope smiled. You are a natural at this. Nate chuckled. Well, I had the best practice a man could ever ask for. Do you ever think about it? Hope asked him one evening. How things might have gone if you hadn't found us. Nate took a long pause, his eyes on the horizon. Sometimes, he admitted. I think about what would have happened if I just walked past that freight car. The man I was back then, he might have. But you did not, she said. No, I did not, Nate agreed, watching his grandson work. Something pulled me toward that car. Call it a gut feeling. Call it fate. I call it love, Hope said, her voice soft. You loved us before you even knew us. That is why you stopped. She put an arm around him. You saved us, Papa, every day since. He looked at her and said, You saved me right back. 20 years to the day, Nate sat on his porch, a grandson on his lap. Tell it again, Grandpa, the boy begged. Tell about how you found Mama and Aunt Hope. So Nate told the story of the frozen train car and two little girls huddled inside with a note that said, Unwanted. But you wanted them, the boy said. More than anything, Nate replied. Why? Nate thought for a moment. Because they needed me. And I reckon I needed them too. Sometimes that is all it takes to make a family. Later, his daughters joined him on the porch. Faith remembered that first night, how scared they were. I thought you were going to give us away, she said, her voice trembling just a bit. It never crossed my mind, Nate said. Faith squeezed his hand. We know that now. You did not just tell us you loved us, Papa. You proved it, day in and day out, until we could not doubt it. As the sun set, painting the Montana sky, Nate looked at the family all around him. His daughters, their husbands, the grandkids. I was not always a man worth being proud of, he said quietly. Hope leaned her head on his shoulder. That is not true. You always were. You just needed us to help you see it. Nate smiled a little. Well, you girls sure showed me. He pulled them both in for a hug, the way he did when they were small enough to fit in his arms. I love you both, he whispered. More than I ever knew was possible. As stars began to dot the sky, Nate swore he could see three burning brighter than all the rest. He knew it was Sarah, Rosemary, and Maggie, watching over their family. We did it, Sarah, he whispered into the gentle breeze. He had learned that his true legacy was not the outlaws he had hunted or the name he had made for himself. It was this. It was them. It was the family he had built from nothing but ashes and hope. That man once called the Shadow had finally found his light. The note had called them no one's children. But that note was wrong. They were his children, and nothing in this world could ever change that. Some families are made by blood, but the strongest ones, the ones that truly last, are forged in love. This content was carefully researched, developed, and manually edited by our team to deliver meaningful stories with valuable life lessons. Every narrative is crafted to entertain, inspire, and empower our audience. We believe that great stories can change lives, and we are committed to bringing you content that matters. Thank you for being part of our community.